Well, sometimes you think that Friday is where you say, thank God it's Friday, but today feels like a Monday. Why? Because the people of Edo State will be going to the polls tomorrow. So a big searchlight on Edo State as they go to the polls tomorrow. Good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily. It's a women affair this morning.
Yes, indeed. We have been waiting. I'm Kayla Megba, and we are excited about this.
Indeed,
I mean, I know the men are jealous right now. They might want to have a men's day, but we don't know if we'll grant them that. But what we do know is that Edo State, like Malcolm said, is on the front burner. Everyone is talking about it. We're all waiting to see how all of this works out. What happens with this peace accord? Will they keep the peace? What will be the turnout? Because over the years in Edo State, we've seen more people register to vote, but fewer people come out to cast those votes. So we'll be watching to see all of that. Of course, we're seeing reports from everywhere, but we'll get to that in the course of the program. But right now, it's time for us to give them the skyline for today.
Well, you will certainly be needing electricity to keep tabs on what is happening in Edo State. And the facility we're about to show you, the Kainji Dam, was started in 1964 and completed in 1968 and was supposed to be one of the infrastructure that ensures that Nigeria has sufficient power supply, amongst a number of other things that dams do. The prayer is that you shouldn't have a crack, you know.
We'll see
what can come of that when it happens, when it happened in Borno State. But this is looking all very beautiful, especially in the rainy season. What you're seeing is the Kainji Dam, constructed in 1964 to 1968 in Niger State. Yes, it has indeed added quite a significant number of megawatts to Nigeria's power supply, but still, we do not have enough of it, do we?
Well, we pay for it now. I have too much electricity. This band,
you do.
It's too much electricity. but that's on the other side. I mean, this dams are in the news right now, aren't they? Everyone is talking about the maintenance of dams. We don't have to wait until something happens and then we start to talk about the devastation that was caused by some dam cracking or not being able to hold water. Or, you know, it's a very serious situation and one that I think a lot of people are looking at very seriously right now. But that dam, $1.5 billion.
Well,
wow.
It certainly looks it. I mean,
yes. Well, the total cost was actually estimated at about $209 million at the time. And that's the equivalent of $1.5 billion in 2023. Well, with 1/4 of that amount was actually used to resettle people that used to live there, because this place used to be a place where people live. So 1/4 of that amount was used to resettle the people that were displaced by the creation of this dam. But of course, it's in Niger State, you know, and very important. Mainstream energy, the federal government, everyone is the one involved in this particular project, and one that is very crucial to our electricity supply. The installed capacity is 760 megawatts. You know, and that's about, you know, and it's trying its best, you know, and the power station that's also, you know, has a generating capacity of that 960 megawatts right there. But only 8 of the 12 turbines have been installed.
Okay, so we're still waiting.
And that reduces that capacity to about 760.
We're still waiting for the remaining 4. Well, we don't know when it will be. The remaining 4 will eventually get installed, but that is if they have not been installed. But hey, this is what we're looking at this morning. This dam predicts the birth of Kayla and I.
Oh, yeah.
But it's older than us. And I know that ideally it ought to be, you know, something that is touristy in nature. We should be able to visit and, you know, have an idea. These are the kind of sites that schools should be organizing excursions to, you know, getting students interested, educated, and understanding just how, you know, electricity generation works. But I hope that it is very soothing for you to look at this morning.
That lake, that's actually Kainji Lake. That lake there, it's about 135 kilometers long and about 30 kilometers at its widest point, and it supports irrigation, local fishing.
Yes,
you know,
those are all the things that a dam is supposed to do.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's why we have to look after them. We have to look after them to ensure that the local economy is supported. But you know, quite a lot to mull on this morning. Apart from the Edo elections, we still have quite a lot to look at on our plate this morning. Kayla, can you quickly take us through what is happening today?
All right, so it's a busy day in the nation's capital. We have quite a number of things happening today. So let's start off with, well, both of them are very important, but let's start off with this one here that has to do with the standard of living of the Nigerian.
Makes me want to sing that song, Standard Living, Standard Living.
It took us a while before we knew it was standard living.
They said it was standard living.
It sounded like Sandalili. Standard living. Mm-hmm. So the standard of living of the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics is going to be, having a dialogue on the current standard of living. I think that's a dialogue that I want to, if I had the time, I'd go, because I want to be able to understand where we are. The truth is, and we heard one of our guests talk about it yesterday. Mm-hmm. We have, day before yesterday, I beg your pardon. We have to start thinking about how to move on. We have to start thinking about how do we rearrange our lives? How do we adjust our lives? I'm gutted that I don't live along Mark West axis. I would have waited along the express to follow you to work every day.
Can you imagine this
so we
girl
can carpool? I don't care.
Who lives 10 minutes away from the office.
I don't want to pay
no comments. No comments on that.
If you're in an office and that conversation is even going on in Channels TV, how do we carpool? How do we help each other out? So the dialogue on the current living standard of the Nigerian, that's a dialogue I think you should be looking at, and we'll be bringing you the details in the course of today.
Indeed. Well, NAFDAC is also having an engagement on a campaign against illicit drugs. This is a campaign a number of people will say is long overdue, ought to have gained momentum, and, should be cruising at an altitude level where everyone is aware of the dangers of illicit drugs. And I want to imagine that they should be, partnering with not just NDLEA as well. I mean, there are legal drugs that people are trying to fake, and then there are drugs that should not even be in existence in the very first instance. Well, NAFDAC is having or starting that campaign today, campaign against illicit drugs in public schools. I'm hoping that this is something that well-meaning individuals will join in. The rate at which people are losing their kidneys these days, we're experiencing a lot of renal failure. I think it's alarming, and if ever you have seen somebody who has struggled with it, it's a campaign that we all should sign up to.
And I love the fact that they're starting with schools.
Indeed.
They're going to actually kick it off at the government secondary school in Wuse today. Mm. And it's important that we start to look at young people and just make it uncool. There's a way to change the mindset of a generation. And I hope that that's what they do with this campaign. Changing the mindset of the generation. It's just not cool to be on drugs. It's just not cool anymore.
Well, let us see how that goes. But right now, let's quickly run you through the papers and how they're reporting what has happened and what will happen. Let's start off this morning with the Guardian newspapers. It has on its front page, Edo decides 2024. People, politics, power, and their godfathers on a warpath. That's a big story on pages 4 and 5 for you, right there on the front page of The Guardian. If you take a look at Daily Independent, they're also focusing on the Edo elections. Edo Guba election. Voters file out tomorrow amid increased tension, heightened security. That's the lead story there. You also see the riders. Fear of voter apathy, violence, malpractice rife in state. Jonathan asks INEC security operatives to be neutral. Politicians must pursue interests within confines of law. Yaga Africa identifies 8 LGAs as hotspots for violence. Worried voter intimidation, vote buying may mar election. And that's the lead story, or the lead stories on the front page of Daily Independent. On the front page of News Direct this morning, you see this. Foreign reserves surge by $2.35 billion, bolstering Naira stability. That's according to Finance Minister Mr. Wale Edun, as Coca-Cola plans to invest $1 billion in Nigeria. That's a lead story there. Supreme Court ruling on local government autonomy. Senate will tinker with Constitution to enforce implementation. That's according to Senate President Akpabio there. Vows to block loopholes for manipulation. Kaduna local government poll to hold despite tenure extension. That's according to an official. And Vanguard newspapers keeps it very simple this morning. Edo make governor poll credible. Parties, CSOs Can Jonathan others task INEC police? That's the lead story right there. You also see a number of other stories. Hardship. Nigerians petitioning for the lawmakers' recall. That's according to INEC. This Nigeria, Edo, the big fight. 24 hours to D-Day. APC, PDP, Labour in final push for governorship seat. Yaga seeks prosecution of vote buyers, sellers. INEC begins distribution of sensitive materials. So that's the lead story on the front page of This Nigeria. Experts attribute decline in inflation rates to harvest season. So that story is also right there as well. Take a look at the economy and what's happening with Business Day. Edo decides infrastructure, security, jobs, top voters' concerns. We want transparent, violence-free election. That's according to the electorate. CDS wants troublemakers, says Tinubu has no favorite candidate. That story is also right there on the front page. Nigerian Tribune focuses more on politics cracks widen in PDP over plot to remove Damagum. Adamawa governor declares support for acting national chairman. I stand by PDP's constitution, Governors Forum. That's according to Governor Adeleke of Osun State. You also see some focus on the Edo Guba. Heavy security ahead of polls. That's also there. The Daily Trust hasn't taken focus away from the floods in Maiduguri. You see it there. Maiduguri flood, victims in dilemma after discharge from camps. Our houses inhabitable. We need support. Will assist to rebuild their homes. That's according to the government of Borno State. Leadership has this. After campaigns, APC, PDP, LP await Edo voters' reply tomorrow. 15 others upbeat about race to Osadebe House. Flashpoint identified in 8 local government areas. 43,000 security personnel deployed. Defense chief assures peaceful poll. That is right there on the front page. And also highlighted on the front page here, Tinubu skips UN Assembly, focuses on domestic issues. We'll leave it there for Leadership Friday. The Daily Times is looking at the economy as well. We're building strong financial system, business-friendly economy, attributed to the president, says private sector partnerships central to his government's far-reaching reforms. Coca-Cola announces $1 billion investment in Nigeria. And that's a look at the front pages this morning. Or you can tell us what immediately sticks out for you in our look at the papers this morning. But for us, it is the Edo decides, if you like. The governorship elections taking place in Edo State tomorrow. Well, yesterday was the last day of campaigns. Usually there's a 24-hour break according to INEC guidelines. As such, there'll be no campaigning today. But last day, you can't ever trust political parties not to try and see how they can circumvent the rules. You see them still trying to, maybe send text messages, etc., etc. But our correspondents are on the ground in Edo State. And one of them, our political correspondent, Dari Idowu, is on the ground right there. I see that you're standing in front of the INEC signboard. All eyes will certainly be on INEC today, tomorrow, and even after tomorrow. Dari, can you bring us up to speed with how the mood is in Edo State? Are the people upbeat about going to the polls tomorrow?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mark. Of course, you can see that there's been a lot of activities, movement in and out of the INEC office here, where you would see a lot more of this in the coming hours. By the time votes open by 8:30 tomorrow morning, by the time it closes by 2:30, a lot more activities will be diverted here. So the question about how people are looking forward to this particular election. I've been speaking to a lot of people. Of course, as a journalist, if you're in town, you would have to engage cab drivers, engage people at the market, engage even civil society organizations, the police, and also the umpire. And focusing on the people now, they are quite upbeat about this. they are excited. They say they'll be going out to vote tomorrow, although they expressed a bit of maybe reservations as to maybe there will be thugs or any activities that may them from going out, but they say they will be very resolute. I just finished speaking to a resident before we got to this location, and he told me particularly that he's looking forward to the election. He will go out to vote. He said he's hoping to see the next governor pay attention to job creation, pay attention to infrastructure development, and also training of the teaming youth in the state. The mood has been quite, let me say, a lot of excitement, relatively calm, cool weather. The people are looking forward to the poll, Maupe.
Indeed. Well, it's good to know that, the people are looking forward to the polls. Security has been a major concern, but we see that right behind you. We can see some police officers sitting right behind you there. We understand that there's been a heavy deployment of security operatives. Nonetheless, we've seen CSOs also raise issue with security around 8 local government areas. Have there been any special reassurances given by the security agencies since that report had shown up?
Yes, Mark. There's been a lot of briefing and a lot of conversation about security and how things will play out. Let me talk about what the police have been saying. First of all, they said there will be a lot of deployment, 35,000 personnel from the police alone, assisted by another 8,000 from other security agencies. And they say everywhere, the borders of Edo State, Edo borders, Ondo, Delta, Kogi, and Anambra, and all of these borders will be manned by different security agencies. They've assured the residents, they say residents should come out, but there's a caveat to that. If you don't have your PVC, you have been advised to stay indoors, monitor the elections, monitor the proceedings, and you don't have any business on the street. That is what the police have said. But if you have your PVC, go to the polling station, go cast your vote, monitor it, go back when the voting is going to be counted, and you are assured, according to the police, Maupe.
I mean, Dari, it's so good to see you again. I remember 2 of us in Nowhere. Are you going to do a repeat of that? Because I remember in Nowhere, we woke up first thing in the morning and we went door to door. We actually stayed knocking on people's gates and finding out how they felt. With everything that's going on, and all of the do or die and the extra security. That's a lot of security, 35,000 plus another 8,000 you've told us. And with the tension that we do feel, even from civil society, we're hearing their fears about the security in that place. That's a pressing issue. How are you, what's the pulse you're getting from the people themselves? Because we had pretty much the same sort of feeling, where, but people were gung-ho. They said they were going to come out. They were outside waiting for the elections to start. Do you get that feeling in Edo? Is it a little different? Are people a little scared?
Yeah, Kayla, what happened in Owerri to make reference to that, because there was a lot of anticipation before the election as well. And in this particular case, pre-election activities, tensions heightened and all of that. The people are also still looking forward to the election. But what I always look forward to as a journalist is, let's get to those very busy polling units. Let's see if people will turn out. Before you start seeing the numbers, that can tell you what can happen. But what the CSOs are saying is that there's a 19% increase from the people who collected the PVCs compared to 2020, where the last election was held here in Edo State. And if you go by that particular percentage, it means that there's a level of anticipation and optimism on the part of the people. Let's see if that would translate to them coming out tomorrow when polls open by 8:30, Kayla.
The political players in Edo State, have you been able to see? I know campaigns have ended, but from time to time, as we normally do, we would go check up on the political players, see how they're feeling and things like that. Do you have any information on how all the parties are doing right now?
Yeah, because the campaigns have ended, we're playing down on politicians at this point and focusing largely on the people. But what I can tell you is that many of them are traveling to their hometowns. Some of them are traveling as far as 4 hours away from the state capital here in Benin City, getting ready for the election. What usually would happen is that there would be a whole lot of activities where they will be voting, and we will be, of course, we did a lot of checks on them yesterday when they were wrapping up their campaigns. At this point, just like Mark mentioned during the intro, that you can see a situation where they are trying to do some kind of campaigns underneath that is not out there in a way that it will be flagged, quote and unquote. But at this point, all you can see and what we are also avoiding are the billboards erected across this the state, and they cannot come out publicly to say anything until maybe tomorrow morning when they go to the polling unit to cast their vote. They would also get that coverage. But at this point, I can tell you it's a lot more about the people, what the mood is, how excited they are, what the expectations are going to this election tomorrow, Kayla.
Of course, and the deployment of INEC, because as like yesterday when we spoke with INEC officials, and even some CSOs, they said they were on their way to INEC offices and materials were being deployed to the different racks of the local government areas. So I want to imagine that INEC has its game on, even though there's been an increase in the price of petrol, which could affect the deployment of transport union workers. Can you bring us up to speed as to whether there's been a truce between INEC and the transport unions and whether they'll be deployed early tomorrow?
That's a very strong point, although at this point I may not be able to confirm to you if there's been a solid arrangement. But what I can tell you is that they've been able to move sensitive materials from the CBN to the local government. What happens then is that after the movement from the CBN to local government, the local government will now start dispatching to different racks and to different wards across the state. 192 was in 18 local governments in Edo State. 4,519 polling units. INEC has been given a lot of reassurances that everywhere will be covered. They mentioned that 5,000 beavers will be distributed to these polling units, and they would have about 18,000 ad hoc officials in different polling units, of course, from the presiding officers to the APO 1, APO 2, and 3. They would also have supervising officers just to ensure that the whole process goes on smoothly. It is a very valid point, transportation logistics, especially now that we have a bit of a situation with fuel scarcity and also the price hike. So before now, for context now, in Imo, where we got to where materials were supposed to be distributed, because the reference to Imo is very important because it's the last staggered election that we had in the country. And there was a bit of a situation as well. NULCW or the transport workers decided that they weren't going to go anywhere until they got the full payment, and that was there was a bit of a lag, and officials weren't able to get to their point on time. All of these things are the issues, the logistics that I hope, of course, by tomorrow we'll be able to give you something concrete. But as of now, it is hard to tell. We see INEC has assured that local governments are already getting the materials, the sensitive materials, and it would definitely be getting to each of the wards, then from there to the polling units. Mark.
So the polls are expected to open at 8 a.m. tomorrow, correct?
Usually 8:30, except if anything has changed. 8:30 and it closes at 2:30. But by standard, if you're still on the line by 2:30, it is mandatory that, of course, you will be attended to, but they would not allow any more voter to come in after 2:30, except Malquer.
Well, thank you very much, Daria. We urge you to please stay safe. And certainly we know that we can count on you to bring us up to speed, giving us every juicy detail of what is happening in Edo State. Thank you so much, our correspondent there, Daria Idowu, in Benin City, the Edo State capital. Well, we certainly will be keeping tabs. There's so much more to come on this program for the Edo elections. We'll be speaking with the INEC rec in Edo State much later, and I'm sure he certainly will have more details for us. But we ask you to please stay with us. We'll be right back.
The focus of this Yaga Africa pre-election conference for the Edo governorship election, scheduled for Saturday, includes areas that wants key stakeholders in the election, including the security agencies and the electoral umpire, to address.
Yaga Africa has identified 8 local government areas as hotspots for violence. The volatile security environment in these local government areas necessitates a strategic and neutral deployment of security forces.
The PRVT methodology enables us to provide accurate information on the conduct of the election as well as the results. So if there are cases, we will detect and we will communicate that to Nigerians.
For the Nigeria Police Force, preparation is on towards Saturday's election, as reflected in the activities around and within the state command headquarters. In the conference hall, the Deputy Inspector General of Police on election duty in the stakeholders meeting with media professionals, civil society organizations and accredited observers says the police are ready for the election as they have all it takes, men and equipment, and will deliver on the mandate of providing an enabling environment for a violence-free election.
We want to reassure the people of Edo State that we will provide a level playing field for everybody. We will be politically neutral, we will be professional, we will enforce the laws strictly, firmly, but politely. We will hold people accountable when they infringe on the laws.
He insists that members of the public should not campaign at polling units or bring along objects that could be used as weapons. He also explains that the operations of the policemen deployed would cover land, water and air, with roving and monitoring teams also available to keep an eye on their activities.
We will also be policing the borders between Edo and Ondo, Edo and Kogi, Edo and Anambra, Edo and Delta. We will also be policing the waterways, the creeks, the rivers, the coastal communities. We will also be carrying out roving patrols.
Another reminder highlighted is that citizens avoid fake news by fact-checking information or contacting the police with inquiries via the phone numbers provided.
You know what to do.
Well, one of the things that we love and we know about the people of Edo State, especially the voting public there, is that they are very sophisticated people. People who know what it is, what time of day it is, and who can make up their mind. They're very politically aware, politically savvy as well. And I know that, you know, they certainly will be getting their voices heard. Would like to hear from you. If you're living in Edo State, if you have your voter's card and you're set for the polls tomorrow, please do reach us on the X platform, on our handle at Sunrise Daily Now. And if you would like to send us a mail, if you have any concerns, if you're optimistic, if you're, you know, whatever your mood is, just let us know what your concerns are. Sunrise Daily Now is the platform, is the handle on X, and sunrisedaily@channelstv.com is our email handle. So please feel free to reach us tomorrow. Well, I did say well, not tomorrow, today. Tell us what your thoughts are for the program or for the elections tomorrow. I did say that, you know, it's going to be largely on the Edo elections. And right now we have with us on the program today Mr. Anubum Onoha, who is the INEC Resident Electoral Commissioner for Edo State. A big task he has on his hands. Good morning, sir, and welcome to Sunrise Daily this morning.
Good morning, the good people of Edo State.
Indeed. Well, all eyes are going to be on your commission. I know that INEC always says, you know, that elections are a multi-stakeholder affair and that they are just at the lead. But so far, so good. You have the responsibility of coordinating and making sure that every other part works in these elections. How has coordinating all of that been as we get ready for D-Day tomorrow?
Yes, as you are aware, the Commission published timetable and schedule of activities for Edo election on the 26th day of September 2003. And so far, in that timetable, we had 13 activities to be executed. And so far, we have executed 12 out of the 13. In fact, yesterday was the campaign for the political parties ended yesterday midnight. We have only one activity left, and that is the election for tomorrow. The INEC is prepared for this election. As you are aware, yesterday we distributed sensitive materials, and before we did that, we invited all the stakeholders, especially the political parties, the 18 political parties participating in this election, and the security agents to inspect the sensitive materials before the deployment to the local government. And yesterday they were there, they inspected us and the sensitive materials, and we signed the sensitive material before them. And we asked whether they have any reservation, and they said no, that they were satisfied with the distribution of the sensitive material. As I speak to you now, the sensitive materials, they are all in the 18 local government of the state. By now, they are now moving them to the various rack centers and super rack centers, which have been actively activated. The rack centers have been activated, the super racks have been activated. In terms of logistics, we are prepared for that. We have hired buses to convey them. We have hired boats for riverine areas and life jackets. We have also made contingency plan for areas that cannot be accessed easily. We will use a motorcycle for those areas. So we are prepared. We are prepared so far.
So far, well, we do know that when INEC was making its budget, I'm not very certain how much it earmarked for fuel and the transport workers. We understand, I mean, now we all know that there's been a slight increase in prices of petrol, and, you know, people are a little curious as to whether the transport unions will be willing to accept the same prices, or has there been a renegotiation? Do you have the assurances of the transport unions that they will be on time tomorrow to help deploy the materials to the different polling units and that there will be no trouble?
Yes, that is the philosophy behind the rack centers. The rack centers are closer to the polling units, and the logistic providers, they have assured us that they will come on time. Where we discuss with them on the amount to be collected. The budget is an internal affair of the commission.
Mr. Onoha, I mean, it would not be proper conversation with you if we do not address the elephant in the room. I just saw your statement that you released 2 days ago, you know, responding to the PDP asking that you be redeployed and accusing you of having the propensity to be partial owing to your relationship with the former governor of Rivers State, Mr. Nyesom Wike, just so we can hear you say it on camera, because it was a statement I heard from you. Let's talk a bit about, you know, those fears about your impartiality in the conduct of these elections. How do you respond to these accusations and from the People's Democratic Party?
Well, it's a fact that I'm a cousin to the minister. I was invited, before on my appointment, I was invited by the Senate. The Senate screened me and I was confirmed. I was sworn in by my chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu. I was posted to Edo last year. Nobody has complained that I'm a cousin to the minister. Of course, I'm a cousin to the minister. What we should be talking at this time is the capacity. Do you have the capacity? Do you have the capacity to conduct the election? Are you competent enough? Of course, from my background, I'm an associate professor of law. People should now ask, can he do this job? Has he done a similar thing before? Yes, I was a electoral officer in Rivers State, electoral commissioner in Rivers State, RISEC. Nobody has complained. I am coming from the university. I'm not a politician. The mere fact that I am cousin to Wike does not preclude me from being appointed. Am I not a Nigerian? Am I not a Nigerian? What Nigerians should be after is this person competent? Do you have what it takes to handle this job? Those are the issues they should ask. Do you have, is your conscience active? Those are the issues. Nigerians should have gone beyond this level. Should have gone beyond this. Am I from Cameroon? Am I not a Nigerian? So what I'm telling you, those people who are now saying that I'm cousin to, I have been here since last year. I don't want to go further. I don't want to go further. When you refuse to do their biddings, then they will accuse you of many things. This election is transparent. And my duty as a Nigerian, when I was interviewed at the Senate, I said, I will add values to the electoral system in Nigeria. I will add value, and that is why I'm here. I will not favor any political party. For record purposes, I will not favor any political party. So those who are saying it's only when they call you say I will not come, they accuse you. They should identify what I have done. Whether I'm favoring them or I'm not favoring them or I'm favoring one political party. All we have done so far has been on the public. Anything I do, I make sure that all the political parties are aware. We have been having stakeholders meeting. They've not raised this issue. Why are they raising the issue now? Why are they raising the issue now? I'm not the commission. They can post me anywhere, but I think that delay defeats equity.
Okay, let me quickly, intervene here because there are quite a number of things. You have said that you will be fair. You have said that, you will not give favor to any side and you will do your job as you should. So let's come to the job itself. We understand that INEC will be deploying about 5,000 beavers tomorrow. Is the IREV still expected to work? We've seen in previous elections, in fact, for the 2023 elections, the biggest controversy was that the IREV platform did not work as Nigerians had expected that it was going to work. So can you take us through the process tomorrow? After people have voted, prayerfully all goes well at the polls, what is the contingency that has been put in place to ensure that it is what is done at the polls that eventually reflects as a result of the elections?
We have already deployed beavers. The beavers went together with the result sheet, the voting, they all went together. Beavers is part of the sensitive material. We have they deployed to the various local governments. This morning, we are deploying them to the rack centers. We shall use beavers. We shall use beavers as they accredit, as you vote, it will be offloaded to the IREG. We have situation room for that.
Will Nigerians be able to see what is happening on the IREV?
We have a situation room, yes. It's not a secret something. We don't do secret something here. We are accountable to the people.
Mr. Onoha, just so we can get some thoughts on you on the security situation, because that's another fear people have about this election. People have flagged particular parts of Edo State that, may turn out, not to be as peaceful as we would want those elections to be. So as the person in charge of all of these staff, that some of them are even going to go to these places on motorcycles, like you said earlier. You know, what are your thoughts on these security fears in the run-up to the elections, and how have you gotten your staff ready to handle that?
Yes, we had security meetings with the security agents, and they assured us that they will be professional in their duty. And I believe them. I'm not a security person. What we are doing, we will do our own. The security will do their own. But they have promised us that they will be professional in their job. That is the much I can say. The security aspect should be left with the security people. But we had meeting with them, all of them, they were there, and they promised us that they will be professional in doing their job, that they will not favor any political party. They will not favor any political party. Of course, they can't do that because INEC cannot compromise this election.
So we should have faith. That's it. So the Edo people should believe that everything is being done so they can have, you know, the atmosphere where they can exercise their franchise. Just a message to the people that you're going to be, you know, monitoring and helping out to cast their votes tomorrow, you know, creating that proper environment. What would you like the people of Edo State, rather, to have at the back of their minds as they're coming out tomorrow?
Yes, they should come out to vote. We have a mandate and vision that we will conduct election that is free, fair, credible, and all-inclusive. There will be transparency in the system. We have started it right from the distribution of non-sensitive and sensitive material to the local government. We invited all the political parties. I want to challenge any political party. Let them tell me what I have done wrong so far. Let them tell me. It is not enough to accuse you. Does it mean that the minister of FCT will not have relatives? Because he has relatives, all his relatives should be excluded from political appointment? Is it your view that because you are related to the minister, you are no longer a Nigerian, I'm no longer a Rivers man? Nigeria should grow above this. And that is what is keeping us behind in this country. Nobody talk about competence. Nobody talk about whether the person can do the job. Nobody talk whether the person can have the pressure to withstand the allegation. I am ready. I will not favor any political party. At the end of the day, the people of Edo will have an election that is free from pity.
Take you up on the issue of vote buying, because one of the things that we have been, that people are highlighting is that these elections are being conducted in a time of hardship. And, you know, people are, you know, struggling economically speaking, and there are fears that people could be susceptible to vote buying. We've seen it in previous elections, and oftentimes these things are done in full glare of both INEC officials and security agencies. Security agents who are there will say, oh, it's because INEC officials didn't direct us to do anything about it. So I'm wondering whether there has been any express instruction to ad hoc officials to ensure that if such a thing is happening in any polling unit or around them and they can see it, that instruction, has there been some sort of conversation with security agencies on what should happen in the event of vote buying?
Thank you. The problem we have in this country is that you people don't direct questions where it should be. There are institutions that are responsible for this, like the EFCC, the IPC. That is their duty to do. INEC cannot serve as EFCC, INEC cannot serve as ICPS, INEC cannot serve as a policeman, INEC cannot serve as a soldier, INEC cannot. Will you kill INEC? So
I'm struggling to understand your point, sir.
Yes, that is an institutional problem. It is an institutional problem, please.
So are you saying that tomorrow, if there is any attempt around vote buying at polling units, INEC officials do not have any, they've been asked to look away? Is that what they've been asked to do?
That one is a criminal offense. That act itself is a criminal offense. I don't want to go to that. It's a criminal, vote buying is a criminal offense. And if anybody is found doing that, the person should be arrested and prosecuted. If they are brought to our notice, if they are doing vote buying before us, but if they are doing vote buying outside us, we are not God as to know when they are doing it behind us. But in the polling unit, if anybody is caught, they will, of course, they will be prosecuted. And you know that this vote buying they are talking, they don't do it. They don't do it at the polling units. You know that.
Okay, well, I mean, I just had to ask that because, you know, there have been, we've seen quite a number of situations where that has happened within the polling unit, and security agents have said in times past that the reason why their men did not act was because they did not get any instruction from the INEC officials at those polling units for them to act. So I do not know if you have received such a feedback before, or you have ever heard that
my
before.
sister,
I'm wondering whether there have been any conversations around that.
If somebody is killing somebody, and the policeman or EFCC, they are there, they will ask, because he did not tell us that they are killing person, he will not intervene. That one is morally wrong. It's nowhere at all. You are expected to do your work. You are seeing them doing that, and you want the permission of the commission to do that. The moment you see that kind of act, you are expected to arrest them. So nobody should push their job to INEC. We have our own to do. And people should watch whether this thing will be transparent. That is my own.
Mr. No,
and of course, if they see, I want to tell Edo people, if they see, I want to hear that the resident electoral commissioner did this, gave a result sheet to this, did that, did not give information to this party, they are giving information to this party. That is what I want to hear. As far as we are concerned, we have been so transparent in this exercise.
Because I need clarification on what you're saying. I know that with INEC staff, you do incident reports. I was in so and so polling unit. These were the things that we saw happening. If there is vote buying going on, we're not asking, of course, it's not INEC's job to interfere. You're not the police. You're not going to arrest people. It's not your job. It's someone else's job, and you're correct. But will it be involved? Will it be part of the incident report of the INEC staff that are at the polling unit? If they see, if they are reporting, because when there's vote buying, people generally report to you. They'll report to the staff on ground. Will vote buying be indicated in the incident reports?
Exact incident form, but it is not our duty, the presiding officer, to start arresting people. That is my issue. We will do our own, like the incident form. The incident form is for us to know what happened there. It's not for us to arrest the person there. We have observers. Nobody is talking about the observers. We have both international and domestic observers accredited for this election. Those people should equally help us. INEC cannot do everything. Election is for everybody. It's not INEC must serve as a policeman, INEC must serve as a EFCC person. Our own is to conduct election. An election is a process. Like I told you before.
To serve as a policeman.
So what I'm saying, no, we have to disabuse our mind that everything that happens is INEC. It's not fair. It's not fair.
We understand that it does seem a little overwhelming, especially with these sorts of very cantankerous conversations around these elections. You know, I get it. It's a little stressful. But, you know, when it comes to the polling units and everything, you know, because elections are very strange. They are very strange dynamics, you know. And the reason why that question about vote buying came up is because of the hardship in our country right now. You and I know that everybody is looking for money here and there. So So some political actors may want to take advantage of that situation to actually now distribute 1,000 to 2,000 to people. You know, they will stand in an uncompleted building by the side of the polling unit and be sharing 1,000 to people. I'm saying, you know, when these situations are brought to the knowledge, because it's possible that that might happen because of where we are as a country now. So if that happens, I just want you to understand where that question came from. You know, it's important that it's put in the incident form, because that's something that will be looked out for, especially by civil society organizations that you said will be helping you to monitor.
Yeah, well, for me, that is a presumption. It's a presumption. If that it happens, we have people on the ground. Like I've told you, this incident form will indicate that we have party agents in the 4,519 units. We have party agents. Will the other party allow them to do that? It is not possible. Unless the party agents have been compromised, of course. If they don't compromise, they should raise alarm. They should raise alarm. If the party agents are there, the 18 political parties, their agents are there, and such things are happening, they are not doing anything, and they want to blame INEC. They cannot be blamed for that. All we can do is to tell them to record those things in our incident form and refer to us.
Will phones be allowed in polling units tomorrow, sir?
No, no phone will be allowed. No umbrella will be allowed tomorrow. And this is as a, you know, yes. You see, INEC, we don't operate in a vacuum. We operate under the legal frameworks and the guidelines of the commission. And the legal frameworks are the Constitution, the Electoral Act of 2022, the court judgments. We also have the guidelines of the INEC. Those are the laws governing these things. So we are acting according to the legal, the extant law and the guidelines of the commission. And those things are provided in the guidelines. Don't do that, don't do this, don't do that.
So are you saying that if it rains tomorrow, they will be expected to stand under the rain and vote?
We pray it don't rain. I pray it don't rain tomorrow. But they should come and vote. Their agents are there. Our polling units are covered. They are covered, so they will not be affected. Just vote and go. If you want to stay, for the agents, stay. I want them to stay and know what is happening. I have come to Edo to conduct a free, fair, credible, and all-inclusive election. Election we can call our own. I can't be no political party. I repeat it. Will ask me to do what is not correct. Nobody can do that. That is why I am transparent. Anything I do, I will call them. See, we are doing this. See, we are doing this. We have given them the register. All the political parties. We have given them. Is there anything, I want to ask question, is there anything I have done so far they are not happy with it? Or the excuse is that I'm causing to the minister. Is that, can we reconcile the two?
Well, I also hope that, you know, all the preparations that you have made, you also have plans for people living with disabilities, I want to believe. Yeah,
we have done that. We have done that. PWD, we have trained them, we have engaged them before. We did a series of training, both for people living with disability, the old women, the young ones. We have done training. Nobody will be disenfranchised. They should come. Their vote will surely count at the end of the day. I can make that, I can vote to say that.
Well, and ask them all the very best.
Yes, ask the political parties. Let their agents be at the polling unit. Let their agents be at the polling unit.
We certainly will highlight that to them.
Yes,
we will highlight that to them
agents.
when we speak with them.
No, what I'm
later
telling you,
tomorrow.
you are part of the electoral process too. Tell them, let their agent be at the various polling units. The 4,519. Tell them, let their agent, and tell them that their agent should be ready to come early, and they should not be compromised by any political party. This thing, which is the exercise is not just...
Mr. Onoha, it's a fine place to live. We're totally out of time. We certainly wish you the very best as you oversee the elections in Edo State tomorrow. And we hope that, indeed, as you have said, INEC will provide a level playing field and not show partiality to any political party. We wish you the very best.
Anything wrong, if there's anything wrong, they should call me. Edo people will have an election, they will call their own. Thank you.
Thank you so much for speaking with us this morning. Mr. Anubum Onoha is the Resident Electoral Commissioner of INEC in Edo State. All the best to you, sir. We'll take a break at this moment, and when we come back, it will be time for Business Morning. Please stay with us.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Doing Business in just about 30 minutes on Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. I'm John Mekwa. Now let's start from the global space. As usual, we're telling you that oil prices eased on Friday and we're on track to end higher for a second straight week following a large cut in the United States interest rate and declining global stockpiles. We see that Brent traded lower 26 cents. That's about 0.4%. Trade at $73.62 a barrel, while WTI on its part 0.2% down, and that's just about 15 cents that it lost. $71.80. Now the wait is over. The countdown to the Fed rate cuts is now over. So we're seeing the impact, but both benchmarks have been recovering after they fell to their near 3-year lows, as that happened September 10, and have registered gains in 5 of the 7 sessions since the prices appeared, and then also following the rate cuts, which was long anticipated and now described as bigger than expected. We come home to Nigeria, look at the Naira and see after that intervention from the central bank, NAFEX did gained about 42 Naira 65 kobo, that's for NAFEX, and to close at 1,619 Naira 23 kobo. But that's NAFEX, the major market we know dropped yesterday, 1,554 Naira 2 kobo, lost 0.28%. That's roughly 4 Naira 37 kobo is what was shaved off that. So the intervention of the central bank wasn't yesterday, Thursday, it was on Wednesday. So we still see a little bit of the effect, sustaining it around 1,500. But however, there was a drop in the value of the Naira yesterday. And perhaps that's why we saw a change in the customs duties yesterday for, I think, the first time in 24 months, about a month. Customs, the Central Bank of Nigeria adjusted the exchange rate used for customs duties to clear goods at ports and airports. The customs duty, also known, refers to taxes and levies paid on goods imported into the country. The duties are paid through a commercial bank to the Nigeria Customs Service, which receives on behalf of the federal government. According to the data, the portal, I checked this morning, so I can tell you firsthand that it's now at 1,593 Naira 57 kobo for a dollar. That's the exchange rate for import duty, and this is about 1.85% reduced from what it used to be. It used to be 1,564 Naira 92 kobo for a dollar. So this hasn't happened in about 24 days. Remember when it used to happen like twice in a day? So there's been a bit of stability and that customs exchange, and we do hope that the stability continues, even though we now see that there's been a change. That change started yesterday. So as at this morning, custom duty is, the exchange rate is at 1,564 Naira 92 kobo for a dollar. Some corporate news now. PZ Cousins is saying that it is going to be selling, divesting its set in Africa, not just Nigeria. So even though this has not been confirmed, by the Nigerian arm of PZ's PLC, but the news is already on the NGX website, which makes it authentic that they will be divesting from Africa. They're looking for partners, African partners, to sell their stake to. So it's not just a Nigerian thing for the case of PZ, but obviously it also affects Nigeria being an African country. Now, the world is going digital. Digital economy is taking over the world, and so Nigeria cannot be left out. That's why the NCC recently held a meeting with stakeholders to upgrade or inform them on the intention to upgrade facilities. But of course, the stakeholders also have their requests on how to make this work. It's a stakeholders consultative forum on emerging technologies. The focus here is the use of 6 gigahertz, referring to the frequency band between 5.925 gigahertz and 7.125 gigahertz. The implementation of this, which is expected to at least double the spectrum available currently, should increase internet penetration and the benefits that come with an 80 megahertz or 160 megahertz channel for Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi plays a crucial role in the distribution of fixed broadband connectivity in homes, offices, and various other environments. The vast majority of home internet traffic is connected to the end user through Wi-Fi. In enterprise settings, Wi-Fi is essential for handling large amount of data and simultaneously connecting large number of devices with improved reliability, higher data throughput, and lower latencies.
5G socio-economic benefit in Africa by 2030 is projected to hit $26 billion. The need for this and similar conversations are captured in the projection that artificial intelligence will lead to $15 trillion gain by 2030. Internet of Things will hit $11 trillion, 5G, $8 trillion, cloud computing, $1 trillion, while cybersecurity risk hit $5.5 trillion in 2023.
So as is today, we have an overcrowded airwaves that are currently limiting the potential of Wi-Fi deployment in the 2.4 gigahertz and in the 5 gigahertz bands. And as a result of that, it is not a surprise that today more than 70 countries, and the number is really counting, have already acted and opened this Wi-Fi 6 gigahertz, or some of them are considering acting to open the 6 gigahertz band for unlicensed Wi-Fi use.
While the idea of upgrading is enticing, in reality, stakeholders are calling for caution.
As Nigeria seeks to leverage this spectrum, our policies must be aligned with international standards and best practices. This will facilitate the adoption of globally compatible technologies, fostering trade, collaboration, and innovation.
Before we can, upgrade to 6 gigahertz, there are a lot of things that needs to be considered. So we are just pleading with the NCC, I will not say into details, that we need to do the needful in providing fund for the sector.
It's no longer news that the future lies in the digital economy, and Nigeria needs to be part of it by constantly upgrading facilities and infrastructure in the information and communication technology space. So let's talk about what we're expecting next week. That's the MPC meeting. Begins on Monday, decision to be announced on Tuesday. Yesterday, South Africa cut its rate by 25 basis points. over outside this continent, we did see the Federal Reserve also cut its rate by 50 basis points. The Bank of England has held. And so what will Nigeria do? Well, I think a lot of people see it being held. But let's find out what Professor Ken thinks of this. Professor Ken, good morning, and thank you so much for joining us this morning. What do you expect from the MPC
thank you for having
next week? Yeah. So what do you expect from the MPC meeting next week?
Yeah, please, I have to say something that we need to manage our expectations because, one, Nigeria is experiencing stagflation. Now, number two, Nigeria is an import-dependent economy by design. Nigeria is struggling against all kinds of structural factors that are limiting the monetary policy space because the monetary policy can only go so far in dealing with the issue that they're addressing, which is inflation control. And bear in mind that why inflation is important is that it is the biggest single driver of millions of people into abject poverty and multiple deprivation. So it requires the highest form of attention. And that is why all the central banks is their first core mandate, control of inflation. Of course, there's another one, which is financial system stability. And in the case of America, they added employment. And then you have a fourth one, which is what they call secondary mandate, promoting sustainable economic development. That's where you get interventions from. But Nigeria case is so complex. Every central bank in the world knows how to manage inflation because it is a simple case for them. Some relationships are very linear. But Nigeria is not only experiencing stagflation, but the most complex interaction of all kinds of disparate factors. You have insecurity. You have infrastructure costs, you have energy, you have transportation costs, you have even the fact that there's huge speculation on our currency. So all of them should make us more cautious about jumping at conclusions. Now, let me give you one example. Monetary Policy Committee will decide by Monday, Tuesday on 3 parameters: monetary policy rate, and then you have the liquidity ratio, and then you have the cash reserve ratio. But those 3 are not the only thing that can affect inflation. Even within the armory of the central bank, it has loan-to-deposit ratio. It has a lot of other things, like, as you saw, closing the net open position of the commercial banks on dollar denomination, and then making sure that it affects the forex transactions. And then even the fact that they have closed down, the most important achievement of the bank, as in my own opinion, is that they have actually zeroed the spread between the between the forex, official forex, and because that is what is the most important to investors. That irrespective of where your forex rate sits, whether it's at 1,600 or 2,000, please close that gap, because that arbitrage is a big driver of speculation in your economy. So they've closed that. And then the next step is to help them manage the thing down, those rates down, so that the inflation, imported inflation that comes with it is attenuated. But having said that, you're asking me, what is my prediction? I will be 2 things that the bank is going to be looking at. One is how much of imagine a country where you have almost 100 trillion naira in circulation, and the GDP of the country is about 240 trillion. I mean, that is huge injection into the economy. It will take a finite time to run that down. Although many things are happening, the bank also has other tools like open market operation and treasury bills and all of that. But it will do its best to continue to suck out oxygen on the demand side. But of course, the second one is that, remember, ECOWAS macroeconomic convergence criteria, 10 of them. One of them says you have to have a positive interest rate. Here we are on negative territory because the MPI is on 26 points and then the inflation is on 37 points. You still have a gap of 11%. So a natural tendency is for the MPC to try to close that by constantly increasing to the point where there will be an inflection. That's one tendency. And then, of course, against that tendency, you have to look at other things. So it will not be surprising if they still decide to increase the rate. However small, it will not be surprising because they have these 2 major objectives. And don't forget that this second objective of trying to be on positive interest rate is also going to help the foreign portfolio investment. And you can see that foreign portfolio investment is inching up simply because we are constantly closing that rate and then giving them a stable forex rate, because that stability and closing the gap is far more interesting to those who are investing into our economy, foreign investors. So it is not going to be surprising if they do decide to increase that rate marginally. But of course, the best case scenario is that they hold, but definitely not to even consider bringing anything down right now. But let me tell you the saving grace. The saving grace is that the fiscal authorities have intervened, and we have been asking for fiscal stimulus, and now you have it. You have the small banks, SMEs, their threshold has gone up from 25 million to 50 million naira. Then you have all those tax VATs being removed, and then they don't have to worry about VAT until their turnover is over 50 million. And there's so many things on the consumption side, like the things that utility, the things you will buy with money for the masses. They've removed taxes from them, and then they whittle down 60 taxes down to 10, even going down to 8. Because as a matter of fact, 95% of government revenue is coming from only 6 taxes. So why do you have 60 taxes? So they've actually come in a very big way, the fiscal authorities, and they remove things like, what do you call it, the tax holidays, and say, no, do it on sector basis. Select key sectors and let them have so many, creative fiscal policy issues, policies are hitting the ground right now, which will help the monetary authorities, because they've all been saying we need more. Do you not have it? Anything we want, we are having it right from the fiscal side of things.
All right,
so I'm
Prof.
much more hopeful.
All right, Prof. Obviously, we're going to continue this conversation and get another perspective on Monday, but hearing from you that we should be cautious as Nigerians, shouldn't be carried away, because we've seen South Africa cut rate, we saw Ghana cut rate even a couple of months ago, but we should look at our own, specific challenges. But thank you so much, Professor Kenife, for sharing your views with us this morning. Obviously, it's a continuous conversation, and we'll do it again on Monday.
Thank you very much.
All right, so while we are still looking ahead to that MPC meeting, we're also looking at state subnationals, talking about their generation of revenue and working hand in hand with the private sector. That's what we're discussing next. And we're doing that with the Chief Executive Officer of Modo Ante Limited. He's also the initiator of a Co-Revenue Plus Summit. Mr. Joko Okupe joins us here in the studio. Mr. Okupe, good morning. So we always... You're welcome to the program.
Thank you.
So a lot of times we've had to rejig or refocus, because sometimes we expect so much from the federal government, and we tend to forget that a lot of the resources in the country is being controlled by the states. And they have potentials, they are closer to the people than the federal, and they ought to also maximize the resources they have. Nigeria is a very great agriculture-rich country. The different states and all of that. How would you at this time score states, governors, government in the area of revenue generation?
Not very, very good. Not very, very high. Because just like you said, there is still room for a lot more to be done. Thinking a little bit outside of the box, getting a bit more innovative with approaches that need to be taken, such that there's not additional burden on citizens, but there are new openings, for revenue generation that can be exploited.
So what are those openings? We're talking about PPP now, working obviously with the private sector. Right. What are some of those openings that will not increase the burden? Because we've seen taxes, introduction of taxes, and obviously at a time like this, we're dealing with energy costs in the country, we're dealing with food costs in the country. So introduction of a new burden on any individual or even companies, it doesn't seem like a good idea.
Right. Well, if government considers going into value exchange services, initiatives that somehow makes government to render services to the people at a rate that they can afford and that will actually enhance their lives and livelihood. If you look at the technology space, for example, the digital space, for example, in the economics of the world, there's so much that is happening in that space. that government can tap into, such that income generation or revenue generation does not even necessarily come from the citizens alone. The digital platform is a global platform. There's always need for people that want to do things outside of the country to get information of what's happening in the country, to get valuable input. And within the framework of government, there are so many of such platforms that can be created, that can begin to generate new streams of income for the state.
And another thing that comes to mind is electricity.
Right.
We know that the Nigeria's electricity law has been tweaked, giving authority, regulatory authority to states. And of course, one would expect that they will work with the private sector. But I wonder, issues of huge capital needed, bureaucracy in getting licenses, I wonder how much of a hurdle that could be, even with the renewed electricity law.
Yeah, a lot of the states are still trying to wrap their heads around that law in terms of trying to get the nitty-gritty of how exactly it's going to operate. But there are also developments technologically, even in the energy generation, energy sector of the world, that makes it possible for energy to be provided in clusters, such that you are not engaging in establishment of huge infrastructure. Now, if that comes in and there is an enabling environment that government creates, for the partners, to come in, it obviously should be something that should work. If, for example, we pick a cluster like where Channels is, and all that provider is doing is providing energy for this enclave alone, that becomes a lot more manageable. So we believe that there are quite a lot of opportunities and flexibility, but it's a PPP thing.
And I hear you say,
yes,
if the government will make the environment enabling environment,
yes,
which has always been the complaints of the private sector in the country. Right. We have a lot of Nigerians who actually have the capital, but when it comes to the enabling environment, an investor wants the certainty that if I go into this line of business, I will make profits.
Right.
We've heard of policy flip-flop, that's on the one hand.
Right.
And, pardon me, we're in Lagos, but for a state like Lagos, you had an issue of multiple taxation, both from the government agency and the non-state actors. And these are, some of the challenges that deter investors, even when we have these bright ideas and the need is all over.
Right. For example, in the summit that's been put together for Lagos, one of the things that we've considered very, very closely is that within government, there should be a deliberate and intentional function that helps investors liaise with various arms of government. Because some of the challenges that the investors have or the private sector has is in having to relate with multiple departments, agencies, and ministries of government. Now, if we create a dedicated desk of function, within government that takes over that responsibility, on behalf of the investors or the private sector, it's just a matter of handing over to them, what exactly they need to get done, what they need to get done, without them having to move from one department, one agency, one ministry to another. It's one of the things that the Office of the Special Advisor on Revenue and Taxation and Revenue is trying to put in place so that the outcomes of that conversation can be implemented seamlessly without too much headache and frustrations.
Since we now know that you do have a connection with the Lagos State, we would like to plead with you to help us send a message to the Lagos State government. We had an exporter on the program last week,
right,
and he did complain that between maybe the heart of Lagos to Apapa Port, they have to pay about 20,000 naira in how many places to the non-state actors. If they don't pay, they break their glasses. That's, transporting their goods to send out of the country. And they have taken this matter, it's not a new one. They've taken this matter even, to maybe to the office of the governor, but nothing has changed. And of course, when exporters or investors see things like this, non-state actors are so powerful that it seems the state cannot do something about it, that is a major deterrent, to investors.
Good information. I believe that there is a continuous information gathering. And in government itself keeps evolving, from whatever it is that they were doing yesterday to what they're doing today. So I think that it's an issue that should be brought to the fore, for a deeper conversation, around it. Because sometimes the depth of conversation that you have around issues also indicates the seriousness, of the issue. Now, within constructs, there's information that you give that should get to me as a result of the various chains between me and you. Whatever gets to me may have been completely diluted from what you intended to send out. So I will think that at some point in time, there should be an infusion of some more structured information management from the people to government.
Okay, so I get 2 points from you now.
Yes.
The first, you talked about creating like a one-stop shop for the private sector. The other is the management of information, which we see obviously the impact, judging from the experience of, it was one of the exporters who was on the program, but we know it's a common thing in the country. Now, if you were to speak to a group of private sector, you're from the private sector, in this, pushing the PPP strategy for state revenue, what would you advise them to look out for if they were to get into any agreement with the government?
Interesting question. I think the first thing is expectations need to be managed. Because in a lot of times, the private sector also gets carried away with the enthusiasm of their ideas, right? Not minding the practical dimensions of the implementation of some of these ideas. So I call it expectation management, to say that, what, because there are some things that private sector requires that require legislation, to be done. So no matter how anxious you are that, we have this fantastic idea and we want to get this thing done, pull back a little bit to know what the requirements are within the current framework of government, to get the things done. So that if there are legislation issues, to be handled before those things come to pass, then you know that whatever it is you are planning to do is not going to happen in 1 month because, there are processes that are in between. So I call it expectation management. And then, of course, opening up precisely to say that for us to do this and do this, these are what require. This is how this is how long it will take, for us to get it done. And if there is some good measure of transparency between government and private sector, I think it's not such a difficult thing to do.
All right, I think that sounds very realistic. Managing your expectation, very realistic. But thank you so much for sharing those tips with us. The Chief Executive Officer of Modo Ante Limited, Mr. Joko Okupe, and also initiator of a Co-Revenue Plus Summit.
Right.
And we hope that you will take our message to Lagos State.
Yeah, the summit is meant to be...
No, I mean the message about,
that's what I'm saying.
non-state actors.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Let them also try to participate in the conversation so that there is a direct ear that also hears.
All right. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Have a good day.
You too.
All right. Cheers.
All right. So that's it. I mean, I've been itching to bring that up because we've reached out to the Lagos State government. We haven't gotten any response yet. So I'm just going to try as much as possible to send a message to them that this issue is still on ground, and we do hope that we can get a response of what can be done and what would be done by the state government. I think that's the much we can take here at this side of the program. We need to head back to Malpe and Kayla. And interestingly, it's Ladies Out Friday. So I'm so happy to do this. So back to you guys, Sunrise Daily.
Indeed, Ini, we are happy to do this as well. If only you could look what's happening behind the scenes, just behind the camera as well. It might surprise you to know there's another lady.
It's all females. If I didn't think about it until I saw Kemi behind the camera just now.
Indeed. Well, it is what it is. Well, we're still keeping tabs on what is happening 24 hours before the people of Edo State go to the polls. We're still hoping that, the citizens of Edo State will tell us how they feel a day to the elections. Do they have any concerns? Well, we do know that part of the concerns that have been raised so far by civil society organizations, even the political actors, have been around security and whether or not the security agencies will provide a level playing field for all of the political actors and citizens and stakeholders to come out tomorrow and exercise their franchise and protect the votes of the people. We have heard so far the reassurances of the CDS, General Christopher Musa, tell us about what the mandate of the president is. We heard the DIG in charge of the elections yesterday, Mr. Frank Umba, also tell us what the instruction he has been given by the IGP. Well, this morning, we're going to be speaking with Mr. Olatunji Disu, who is the CP Edo State election. Yeah, they have a CP in charge of the elections as well. Mr. Disu, it's so good to see you on Sunrise Early this morning. Thank you for speaking with us this morning. So that is a charge that we have heard so far, the fact that the police have a duty on their shoulders to be able to provide a level playing field. How do you intend to achieve that for this polls where we have seen mutual suspicion and some parties refusing to sign a peace accord as a result of fears that, the security agencies could have been compromised already?
Good morning. It's my pleasure to be here. First and foremost, we started this by having various meetings with officers. Even yesterday, the Inspector General of Police was with us on Zoom, where it made it clear for us that we are here to provide a level playing ground for these elections. And then our officers have been briefed. We have had meetings upon meetings. Today we are meeting again, and our goal is to let them know that they are to go out, provide a level playing ground for everybody to ensure that we have free and fair elections.
What are some of the assurances? What are some of the things you're doing to ensure that, if there are any questions raised by any political party or by any political actor or even by the people, that, it does appear that maybe some of your men they haven't taken that instruction on board. What are some of the outlets that you have given people to be able to report such incidences?
We have, for this election, we have 18 local government areas. The election will be taking place in 4,519 polling units. And then the Inspector General of Police have thought it wise to deploy commissioners of police to man these 18 local government. So we have commissioners of police who will be able to handle situations as they unfold. We have numbers that we are going to give to members of the public for them to call us in case there's any emergency or anything they want us to look into quickly so that we will attend to it.
Do you have some of those numbers with you now?
I do.
Do you want to share them quickly?
Definitely. I have the phone number of the DIG, who is always with him, and we move around almost together. The phone number is 0702 500 283. I'll come in with the number again. 0702 500 283. And we have two other numbers that are the helplines for the command. We have 080 7777 3721. I'll take it one more time. 080 7777 3721. And the last number is 0803 764 6272. I'll take it one more time. 0803 764 6272.
All right, thank you so much for sharing those numbers. We'll make sure that we put it on the slide and perhaps it can also be aired towards the end of the program for the citizens to have that. One of the big bones of contention which we had cause to raise with the REC as a resident electoral commissioner earlier on in our discussions is the issue of vote buying. I mean, I'm sure my colleague Kila will take you up on security and violence because there have been concerns raised around proliferation of small and light weapons, even before this elections. But let me take you up on the issue of vote buying, which is one of the concerns that CSOs have also raised. They fear that, given the current economic situation, that, the voting public could be susceptible to, the antics of political parties who might try to buy the vote of the electorate tomorrow. Do you have any special operation in place to look out for such? And what is the agreement between yourself and INEC with regards to that?
Definitely, we have that information, we have intelligence, and we know this happened during all the elections. The intelligence of police have tasked the SIB, that's our intelligence unit, to go out and work on this. And then our sister agencies are here. We have had meetings with them, that's the EFCC and Co, whose job borders on issues of influencing votes and election with money.
What is the consequence? What are the penalties for that? What is the line of action when that is noticed?
People found to be arrested, taken for investigations, and they'll be prosecuted. I'm sure there are prescribed punishment for them in our laws, and that will be followed to the book.
I mean, listening to you say that right now, is that enough to discourage people, Mr. Disu? Is it enough to discourage people from partaking in or being the ones distributing money at polling units? Do you think this warning from you and your office is strong enough?
From experience, people will still do what they want to do. But I'm sure we have warned them enough, and we have people out to ensure we enforce this. We know from experience that when this vote buying will start, it starts from today. It starts from today, and operatives have been sent out where we know a lot of activities will be taking place. Yes, I'm sure this should be enough warning to them. Anybody caught will be prosecuted and they will be charged to court.
I mean, maybe it's just my mind as a Nigerian. I like to hear what punishments are, because many people, like you said, they would want to be able to exploit these situations and, find loopholes around it. But we'll get to that shortly. As Mark West said, I wanted to take you up on security, because that's one of the major issues that people have with this election, with the non-signing of the peace accord, with the rhetorics we've been hearing, do or die, die or do, and all of the things that we've been hearing in the build-up to these elections. And we're seeing election observers also stating that this is something that they're worried about. The presidency, President Bola Tinubu just released a statement right now where they're also saying that security agents have to, do what they can to ensure that there's a peaceful exercise. Are there fears that you and your men may be having right now as regards the peaceful nature of this exercise? And in what ways are you going to handle them?
Yes, we have fears of people wanting to come out to disrupt the elections. We have fears of the usual consequences of disruption of elections. And that is why we have taken our time to talk to our men, we want them, and we have started taking proactive measures towards this. Yesterday we continued the show of force movement around town, getting to know all the nooks and crannies of the town, familiarizing ourselves with all the polling centers, and having demonstration of what could happen during the elections for the men to have a feel of it. We have posted men everywhere. And for your information, there's going to be restriction of movement. There's going to be, and we are going to follow it to the latter from 12:00 hours to 18:00 hours of tomorrow. Movement will be restricted, and we have found out that by the time we achieve that, 70% of our problems will have been solved. We are using the opportunity to warn people, VIPs that will want to go around with their security operatives. This will not be accepted.
I want to be able to look at some of the issues that were raised by, at least by Yaga Africa, about the security. And they said they are noting tense and volatile political start. The campaign period was signposted with strong arm tactics and violence. The activity of cult intensified operation of small and light arms, like Yaga Africa. that politicians will tactically employ violence and units and local government areas. Additionally, they're saying armed groups and political thugs may disrupt INEC's deployment of election materials or elections to influence the outcome of those elections. And they've targeted, well, they've identified rather, 8 local government areas that they believe will be hot spots for this violence. Them properly. Ikpoba, Oka, Ovia Southwest, Ovia Northeast, Eshan Southeast, Esako West, and Esako East. The volatile security environment in these local government areas necessitating a strategic and neutral deployment of security forces. Personnel that we're seeing 35,000, with another 8,000 from other agencies joining those 35,000 policemen who've been deployed. What are your thoughts on these reports from, at least from Yaga Africa? And in what ways, you know, you talked about restriction of movement. Is that enough? You're saying 70% of your problem is solved with the restriction of movement?
Yes, we have this intelligence as well. We know that this is the period for political talks to come out to apply their trades. We know various political parties will want to employ them. We are working on them. We have plans, and a lot of them have been chased out of town. For this electoral material that you mentioned and all these known black spots, we have tactical units who have been tasked with ensuring that there is no breakdown of law and order in these areas. For your information, we have moved in a lot of mobile units to take charge of these areas that are known for violence. For the electoral materials, for the INEC offices, we are moving teams and teams of mobile policemen to be on vigil. And don't forget that we are not doing this alone as the Nigerian police. We have the assistance of all our sister agencies, the military assisting us, and other security agencies as well. And they have all been given specific roles to ensure that this election goes as planned.
I mean, I heard you talk a little bit about, you know, the state of our country and how, you know, that may affect, you know, people's susceptibility to selling their votes. But another issue that is being raised is the susceptibility of security personnel to be influenced by political stakeholders who may want to use them, you know, in one way or the other. And we're seeing that also here. Security agencies from this Yaga report, you know, to deploy personnel to strictly adhere to the code of conduct for election security. Now, when it comes to the readiness of your men and their ability to say no to political inducements, to money and things like that, considering the economic situation of our country, are your men up to the task? Are they ready to say, no, we don't take money, we are here to get this job done, and we'll do it without any inducement? Are your men the men for the job?
Yes, we are prepared for it. Police officers and other security agencies are human beings, and then definitely there will be one or two who will want to take the laws into their hands and do what they are not supposed to do. We have the police. We call them the police. They are the ones who take charge of all vices committed by police officers. They take charge of persecuting police officers involved in crime, trying them. They have been deployed as well. And then we have intelligence to watch the activities of all our men. And the IG have said it to them: anybody caught trying to disgrace the Nigerian police and fail the nation will be held responsible and punished accordingly.
Yes, but that punishment is for the people who try to influence your policemen. What about your policemen themselves? What punishment is there for them if they fall into this trap?
I just talked about the police. For those who try to influence the police, there is a punishment for the giver and the taker.
Well, we certainly will be keeping tabs on, you know, what happens tomorrow at the polls. You have spoken about what will happen for the places that have been highlighted so far. The Inspector General of Police has also said that there will be no vigilante allowed to operate tomorrow. And this is in spite of, the fact that we know that Edo State has always operated that vigilante system. And it doesn't seem that that has been received very well. But would you say, has there been further discussions on that? Are you seeing any role for them tomorrow, or are they being told to stand down completely? Is that still the situation for Edo State?
Stand down completely. There is no role for them at all. Non-state actors are not invited to assist in this election. We have enough assistance from the military and other sister agencies. We have the civil defense, we have the DSS, we have the immigration, we have the customs. All of them have been deployed to assist the police. For every polling booth, you have nothing less than 5 police officers mixed with officers of other sister agencies. So we do not want them around. We do not want them to come and assist in any way for this election.
Edo State is also known to be a transit state. I mean, a lot of vehicles traveling from the southwest, to any other parts of the country, especially when they're going, further into the country, usually go through Edo State. You have said that there will be a no movement order tomorrow. What arrangements are being made for vehicles that are going to other states and usually have to go through Edo State?
The election is a national matter, and then we have tried very well to ensure that they have alternative routes. And then it's very important we have a restriction of movement because of experience of what happened during elections. Don't forget that Edo State share border with Kogi, Delta State, and Indo, and we know the volume of people that move around. They should take note that that election will be starting tomorrow, and then we have ensured that we are going to ensure that the PRO comes out to inform people on time that there will be blockage of those main roads from 12:00 hours to 18:00 hours of tomorrow for the election to be conducted successfully. They can find another means of moving around during those periods.
So from 12 midnight today, there will be all the routes in and out of Edo State will be totally blocked off.
That I confirm. And this will be done mainly by sister agencies, especially the Nigerian Army, to be assisted by some officers of the mobile forces. Those on essential duties only will be allowed ingress into the town.
There have been concerns about the proliferation of small arms and light weapons, before the start of this election. And I know that, even the police did suffer a casualty preceding the elections. We've been seeing how there's been controversy reigning over people who have been arrested. The police maintains that it is people who were involved in the death of their police officer, etc. But, were there attempts to mop up any arms prior to these elections holding?
Definitely, that attempt was made. A lot of arrests were made by officers of this command, and some sizable number of small arms were recovered as well. It's a usual thing for police officers, and it happened towards the commencement of this election. Other proactive measures were taken into consideration. We have intelligence that they worked upon, and we have they got assistance from the headquarters as well, where specialized officers are trained to sniff out weapons were brought in to assist officers of this command.
What other attempts have been made to douse tension, between political actors ahead of those polls?
A lot of meetings have been held for stakeholders, and the DIG for this election have had meetings upon meetings since it came, where different people have come around, and they made an attempt to visit some of these stake actors. They have spoken to them, and again, the PRO is going to come up to address finally today, where members of the public will be addressed, and candidates especially, and political parties will be talked to ensure that they maintain peace and they allow the election to go smoothly.
Well, Mr. Diso, if we hadn't been, if we're just coming into Nigeria for the first time, with all of the reassurances that you have given, ideally, we should just say, well, we think the police has this covered. We should just go to bed and, tomorrow the polls should hold. But, we're not strangers to how, some of the things that elections experience in this country, and how sometimes some of the finest words are spoken, assurances are given. But we see on the day of elections that some of these things are broken. There's rampant vote buying. There is some violence in some places. Security agents look away, or in some instances, they themselves are actively involved. How, if we're to rate it on a scale, and it would seem that for elections now, what we now begin to do is rate just how much rules were not broken, or how much rules were broken, and that's how we rate the success of elections. From your own assessment of the situation on the ground tomorrow, what would you say is the propensity for some of the assurances that you're given to us today on this program to be upheld tomorrow when the citizens of Edo State go to the polls?
The question is a very interesting one. I want to know that we are human beings. Our security operatives are having our plans, going around to gather information. At the same time, they are planning as well. They are watching us, and they're trying to circumvent everything we are doing to ensure that we have a peaceful election. We are aware of that. At the same time, we are putting a lot of contingencies to take charge of things that we are not planned for, or any new thing that they bring up. We'll definitely try our best. We'll give you assurances that we'll do our best to ensure that this election comes out perfect.
In the event that it doesn't, what will the security agencies be saying?
Yes, that's why we have, before this election, we have plans for pre-elections, we have plans for during election, and we have the post-election plans as well. All these have been taken into consideration. The proper thing will be done at the appropriate time.
Well, we can only wish you the very best and pray that the elections go just as it ought to. Kela, you want to quickly say something?
Yes, because the bars, the phone numbers are out there right now. They're putting up the phone numbers, the emergency numbers on the bars right now. But before Mr. Disu leaves us, I want you to be able to listening to you, everything is going to be fine. It's going to be all right. Everything is going to be wonderful. But I'm worried. I'm actually a little bit worried about, the rhetoric. And back to that thing, the question Mark was asking you about, how voters will respond to security, especially with the rhetoric that has been going around about the police. We've heard the explanation from Mr. Dijobi, and we've understood it. But are your men ready for possible hostility against your men as the elections happen, because of the rhetoric that has been going around accusing the police of being partisan? Is that something that you and your men are ready for?
The situation, and then we have the First Order 237 that have given police officers when and where to defend themselves. The police officers have been warned, they have been educated on their use of arms and ammunition, and then we are using this opportunity to warn potential troublemakers never to attack our policemen. Police officers will not fold their hands and allow themselves to be killed anyhow.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Disu, for speaking with us this morning. Those numbers are on the screen right now. And good luck with all the work that you have ahead of you. We'll be checking up on you throughout the election cycle.
Thank you so much.
Indeed, we have been speaking with Mr. Olatunji Disu, who is the Commissioner of Police, Edo State election. So he's taking charge as CP for Edo State election. And just before, as we wrap up, not just the segment now, but also the program, we know that we do have quite a number of feedback. Looking at some of the tweets here, taking a look at this one. Let's start with this one from Jesus for the Street. He says, folks from Edo and fellow humans from USA, leadership has become democratized. Any one of us can show leadership. Starts with voting. No one's unimportant. There are no extra people alive. Think of those who depend on you, who are ineligible to vote yet. Vote wisely. Those are the words of
Jesus for the street.
Yeah, Yomi D, I think.
Yomi D. Thank you so much. Innocent Aziz sends this one. Innocent says, REC is not the issue. We've been through this road before. Professors who could not add up vote figures, the professor miscarried a particular election mandate of Nigerians, he says, and they were all Nigerians. It's all been touted competence. So he's not very not very confident in the election process. You want to take this one from Professor Imonaka?
Well, he says with 35,000 policemen, NSCDC deploys 6,433 and thousands of military personnel. Are Edo State indigenes at war or with each other trying to elect a governor? How do you mobilize such numbers of security personnel when most of the nation is encountering a palpable level of insecurity? Well, I guess at the end of the day, what people want to do is to make sure that they're able to vote safely, come back to their homes. Nobody should lose their lives tomorrow because they want to go and cast their ballot. And if this is what will assure citizens of security, well, it's the results at the end of the day that counts. We look forward to the time when we will not have to deploy any security at all, or the numbers start to decrease. But this is what we have for now, Professor Enakena. Well, we also have the numbers there for the Edo elections as reeled out by the CP for the Edo elections. So please take note of those emergency numbers. If you see something, please say something. As one of our writers just noted, nobody is an extra person unalive. You have a role to play, and you could just be able to save the day in your own polling unit or around you. So please be proactive.
And a clarion call to everyone in Edo State. I mean, elections shouldn't be this dangerous,
It shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be this dangerous. But we are where we are. And now we have to be able to appeal to the people of Edo State, to everyone. Don't do this. It's just not right. It's not right. Don't do it. Don't put your fellow residents and their lives in jeopardy. Don't make this a very toxic situation. An election is supposed to be a celebration of democracy. And yes, we understand that the world has changed. A lot has happened in your lives, but we can take our country back. And one of the ways to do that is to ensure a peaceful exercise. Don't become a cult leader or a tout leader or try to foment violence or snatch in boxes. These are just things that we should have grown past. So please play your part, have a peaceful exercise, and we wish everyone in Edo State all the best in the elections.
I think it's a fine place to leave it. Thank you so much for being a part of our program this morning. Whatever happens, hold your head up and be a good citizen of this country. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf. Thank you for watching.
Have a great weekend ahead. I'm Kayla Magwa.